so let's get started. There we go. A little bit thin on the ground this morning. So many people are wearing all these lovely exotic places that keep sending me pictures of Mauritius and things like that, and it's like, stop, don't want to see. Until I get there. Right, ladies and gents, let's get ready. Coming into our set position, feet just underneath your hips, realign on the mat, better. And just lengthening up through the spine, so drawing the crown of the head up to the ceiling. Slightly in with the chin, and draw the chin back to lengthen the neck. Turn your palms in to engage your upper back and open your chest, and just slightly soften down with the ribs so they don't overflare. Starting with the pelvic tilts, take a breath in through your nose. Breathe out, softly drawing the tailbone towards the heels. And then as you breathe in, let your tailbone just slightly lift away from the ground. As you draw the tailbone down, keep lengthening through the neck, all the way up to the crown of the head. And that way you'll feel a little bit more stretch just in the lower back area, just below your ribs. As you're drawing down with the tailbone, think about pulling up with the front of the pelvis, the pubic bone towards the belly button. So as we start to stretch the lower back, it allows the lower abdominals to work a little easier without the resistance of a tight lower back. So if you allow your hip bones, we're going to try and point upwards towards the ceiling and let them gently then point down towards the floor. Still drawing it through the head and keeping the upper back still. And then settle midway between those 2 points so you're in your neutral spine. Both shoulders coming forward, a little shoulder roll, and then rolling the shoulders back and down. Again, as you're working through the shoulders, keep the length and stillness through the neck. Keeping the ribs slightly drawn down so the rib cage itself doesn't move. And we're just starting to get rid of some tension through the top of the shoulders. Sliding the hands down towards the outside of the knees. Breathing in with the lift, and then breathing out to roll back and down. As you roll them down this time, focus on drawing the shoulder blades down, and then just come to a single arm float, floating one hand to shoulder level, and then the other arm to shoulder level. Now as you're floating the arm up, try not to let the shoulder itself move up towards the ear. So our main focus is keeping the shoulder blades drawn down to the back of the rib cage, keeping the length into the neck as you float the arm forward, not allowing those alignments or positions to change. Then you can lift the arm a little higher, still keeping the shoulder blade drawn down. Breathing out again as you lift, and a soft breath in as you lower. Now sometimes when we lift, we let the ribs lift, so a proportion of the lift comes from the extension of the spine. The more you keep the ribs in place, the more you're going to feel the movement through the shoulder, and then you're using your upper abdominals to keep your neutral spine. Adding in a foot pedal, so as you lift your right arm, lift your left heel so the knee tracks forward, and rolling from the heel to the ball of the foot. Breathing in on the way down, and then breathing out to rise. As you're adding the heel raise, try and make sure the knee doesn't drop into the centre. You're pushing the kneecap forwards, and if you're happy you're keeping that space between the ribs and hips, then you can alternate. As one heel lifts, the opposite heel lowers. Still keeping the tailbone softly drawn down to the heels at the back, and the shoulder blades drawing down towards the back pockets. So that neck stays as lengthened and as long as possible. So again, not letting the shoulder rise so it doesn't change the position of the hips and the spine. A couple more on each side. At the breath, just ease in through the nose and then ease out through the mouth. Once more each way. And then you can bring both heels and both arms down. Back into your set position. Reset the shoulders, so open the collarbones, weight even through the heels and into the side bends. So let the movement come through the neck first, so your ear tips towards your shoulder, and then get the feeling each vertebrae gently rolls down. And on the way up, feel each vertebrae being pulled back up to restack, one then the next. Now try and keep the squeeze between the shoulder blades as you're tipping from side to side, so it keeps the collarbones here open. As we keep the collarbones open, that's going to help to keep the alignment between the ear, the hip, the ankle. If we let the shoulders drop forward, you tend to find that we also round the back as we come forward. So again, by opening up the chest, and keeping the shoulder blades drawn towards each other, we've got much better alignment through the spine, and we possibly find a much deeper stretch between the ribs and the hips. You've got your weight staying evenly placed through both of your feet. Still drawing the tailbone softly down towards the heels at the back, and a couple more each side. Feel the in-breath as you lower down. Breathe out, restack. Ear towards the shoulder, crown of head up to ceiling, and then coming into your last one and holding in the centre. Stepping your right foot in front of your left. So we're going to come into our tandem stance. One bow and arrow and one double arm float, and then we'll add in a heel raise as well. So your neutral pelvis, all 10 toes forward, knees slightly open from the hips, and then drawing the shoulder blades down as you float the arms forward. Keeping the left arm still. Right elbow drops, so it skims the top of your hip, and then reach out to the diagonal, and then keeping the ribs down, double arm float. You can either keep your eye gaze forward, or let the head turn, opening the arm so it opens the shoulder, keeping the ribs in place, double arm float. The breath, breathing in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth, take a soft breath in as you lift the arms, and then breathe out to lower. And notice again now the elbow comes down rather than high, and that's going to open the chest and shoulder more, and then the option to lift both heels as you lift the arms. Keep gently pulling up through the crown of the head. Feel like you're creating a little space between each of your vertebrae. And that's going to allow a little bit more rotation here. And don't forget to keep squeezing your bottom. As the heels come down, just make sure both knees are still nice and soft. Shoulder blades drawn down to the back of the rib cage. And your last one here. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, keeping the ribs down as the arms rise, and then placing the hands back to your thighs. Take your right leg back, a long stride back, and lift that back knee so the leg is straight, and then a little hinge forward. Hold on to the hips to begin. Just pressing the back heel to the floor, keeping the front knee over the heel, and then roll onto the big toe, and straighten the front leg. So the front knee bends as you lower the back heel, but that knee stays pushed forward, and you lean forward and almost straighten your front leg. Now when you come forward, try not to let the weight go forward into the toes. Breathe in, keeping the pubic bone lifted, the lower back lengthened, and then breathe out as you push forward. Try not to let the head drop below the shoulders, so still drawing the chin slightly back towards the throat. And then see if you can reach an inch further back. Press the heel towards the ground and then push up through the front heel. Breathing in through the nose. Now a little harder, just tap your big toe on the ground. So bend the front knee, tap the big toe, and then straighten the front leg. So you're breathing in, sitting back almost into a single leg squat. Breathing in as you tap, breathing out to rise. So you always want to feel your hips move back and your hips push forwards. Breathing in as you sit back and then breathing out to rise. Just two more here. And your last one. So that's really bringing the work into the thigh and into your glutes. And you can step in. You may bring your left leg forward. So left in front of right. Square the hips. Lift the pubic bone and lengthen the lower back. Palms in and shoulders down. Keeping the ribs in place, both arms float. Elbow drops down, skims the top of your hip. Open. Keep the ribs down. Let's breathe. In through the nose. Both knees soft. Weight 50-50 through both feet. Again, aware the ribs stay down as the arms come up. You might find all the weight wants to shift into your back foot. So again, try and keep the weight even, but not into your toes. Your toes want to stay relaxed. In fact, they probably don't want to stay relaxed, but I'd like you to keep them relaxed. Now, option to add the heel raise. Onto the balls of the feet, not onto the toes. Softly lowering the heels and the arms. Breathing to open. Breathe out, close. Ribs down, soft breath in, balls the feet. Breathe out to lower, shoulder blades still drawing down into the back of your rib cage. So think about the ribs here. The more we hold the ribs down, the more we keep our spine in neutral, because we're keeping a stronger connection into our abdominals. Chin still towards the throat. One more time. Both knees still soft. Little squeeze at the bottom, that helps. And then lowering the hands all the way back to your hips. Take a hold of your hips. Take your right leg just outside your left. So once you're there, nice long stride back. Oh no, sorry, it's your left leg going back. Your right leg's done the work. Left leg going back. So the work's in the right. Tip forward slightly. Pull that back knee. And then just slide your back heel to the floor. But don't let this front knee pull back. It needs to stay forward. So you can lean your weight into your front foot. Straighten the back leg. And then again, pressing the heel towards the floor. So the breath again. Slow breath in as you ease back. Breathe out, let your weight come into the front heel. And again, almost straightening your front leg to rise, but not locking out that knee. Now again, think about the ribs slightly drawn down, the pubic bone slightly drawn up. So we hold that square between the ribs and the hips. Again, you can reach just a little further back to get more stretch into the calf and more work into your glutes. So it's like when we squat, we sit back into the hips and we push through the heel. Option just now to tap the big toe on the floor so you're not putting any weight onto your left foot. Just lightly tapping the big toe and then pushing out the front heel. Don't let the knee go forward. You need to lead with the hips, pushing the weight into the bottom and then pushing the hips forward. Back into the bottom and then pushing forwards. Breathing in and then breathing out. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Two left on this leg. So we can all feel our glutes have woken up. And hold and step in. Perfect. Right, taking your feet now just outside of the hips. Opening the knees from the hips so they're not dropping in towards each other and into your neutral spine. Shoulders set. Come down into your squat. Hands come out towards the knees. Float the arms forward and a little rotation, keeping the knees and the hips still. Bring the hands back to the outside of the knees and then push up through the heels. Still that little hinge forward, so the bottom pulls back. Don't let the back round, keep the chest lifted. And then again, either keeping the head still and just squeezing back with the shoulder blade. Hands to the outside of the knees and rise. So the arms stay straight, hips sit back. Weight again into both heels. Breathing in to open, breathing out to close. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Soft breath in, push your breathing through the heels. And the more we pull the hips back, the more you're going to feel a hold into your thighs as well. So we never want those knees to be dropping forward. Pull back, tip forward from the hips. Keeping your square so there's no change of alignment. The spine of the neck, the chin still drawn back towards the throat. And again, still feel the knees really pressing out as you go into that squat. Breathe in to open the arm, breathe out to close. And as you're moving the arm from side to side, you're trying to keep your weight evenly placed through both feet. So again, hinge, draw the belly to the back, tuck in the chin. Breathe in to open the arm, breathe out to close. Soft breath in. Out, soft breath in, breathe out and rise. 2 to go. So if we don't rush the rise, you'll start to feel a little bit more work in your thighs, a little bit more endurance, working through the front of the legs, squeezing back with the shoulder blade. Hands to the outside of the knees, keep the knees pressed out. One last time. Shoulder blades stay down as the arms float forward. So it's got that nice lengthened feeling through the back of the neck. and still feeling those shoulder blades drawing down towards your back pockets. And then push up through both heels. Check out the legs. Right, so let's come to lunges next. Let's stay with a lunge and a lift on our right hand side. So start with your right leg back. Stack the front knee over the heel, but not letting it go forward over the toes, and finding your neutral pelvis here. So we're going to breathe in, sink the back knee, lift both arms. You're going to open your left arm out to the side, back into the centre, and just simply rise. So again, shoulders stay above the hips, tailbone tucked. As you open the arm, try not to let your body sway to the side, and then pull down the shoulder blades and up with the crown of the head. You can add a knee lift when you rise. So if you prefer, stay in this split stance, or as you rise, bring your knee forward just to hip level. Stride back, breathe in, bend the back knee, open the arm. Arm just in front of your face, pull both shoulder blades down and bring the knee forward. So when you lift the knee, try not to lift it too high because it'll change the position of the spine. So once you can just below hip level as you come forward with that standing knee still soft. As we sink and the tailbone's tucked, that's where we start to feel a little stretch through the front of the thigh, the front of the hip. Push through the front heel. And again, slow breath. Sink. Breathe out, draw the shoulder blade down. Breathe in, lift the arm. Breathe out, feel like you're pulling your head straight up towards the ceiling as you rise. Chin back towards the throat. Eye gaze level and forwards. Shoulder blades pull together and down. 2 more. Notice the ribs as the arm opens, still keeping the front of the ribs just slightly drawn down towards the hips. One last one. Tuck in, chin to throat, push through the front heel, and rise, and reset. Left leg now. So weight and load into the right, long stride back with the left, and opening the knees. So again, outer thighs are on to stabilise our pelvis. Just a lunge, coming down to the back knee, lifting the arms, keeping the trunk of the body still as the arm reaches out to the side, and then pulling the hands and the shoulder blades down. So the in-breath, feel the shoulders still stacked above the hips. Hand just to shoulder level, no lower. Just makes it a little bit harder. So it's about keeping that alignment of the shoulders and the hand just level with the shoulder here. Next time, if you want to add in the knee lift, bring the knee forwards. If you prefer, just stay with the lunge. Again, feel the in-breath as you stride back. Big breath in. Breathe out, draw the shoulder blade down. Breathe in, lift the arm. And then breathe out as you push through your right heel and let the left knee come through. Again, you might find that back knee wants to drop in, which will make your pelvis unlevel. So even when you step back, think about keeping that back knee open to keep the hips level. Sometimes you can see if you've got a t-shirt on, it tilts a little. When you do come forward, try not to go onto the toes on that right foot. And also try not to lock out your right knee as you come forwards. And that creates just a little bit more instability. So hopefully the deeper muscles work harder to find your stability. Shoulder blades down to the back of the ribs. Pull the crown of the head straight up to the ceiling. And your last 2. Maybe striding a little further back if you want a deeper stretch, or maybe just sinking a little bit lower to deepen that stretch. Once more. In through the nose, draw the shoulder down, arm back level, push through the front heel, lift the knee, and place your foot down. Right, let's come down onto the floor. So in your own time, you want to come to the back of your mat. Don't tuck in with the chin, you can come down through a roll. So if you're rolling down, your feet just want to be hip distance apart. Soft knees, open the collarbones, let the chin come in first. Then allow each vertebrae to gently roll. Keeping the knees soft as you ease down. And just feel like the weight of each vertebrae gently eases you down to the floor. Hands come down when you're ready. Walking the hands forward, knees just underneath the hips, and we're going to come to pinpoint arms and legs. First thing is upper back. Squeeze the elbows in, so your elbows kind of point back towards your hips, and lengthen the spine. If you find it difficult on your knees, you can lie flat on the floor and work with the opposite arm and leg lift. So, keeping your neutral spine, your right arm reaches forward, your left leg slides back, then a little lift, bring it to the floor first, and then drag it back to centre. So keep in contact with the floor until you're fully lengthened, then brace your core as you lift, so we can really focus on each part of the movement. Shoulder stability as you reach forward, keeping neutral spine as you lift. As you make the transition from one knee to the other, try not to let the hips rock from side to side. So let's think about lengthening the spine also when we're in this position. The crown of the head gently easing forward, and the tailbone drawing back towards the heel. Now, if you want to add a little bit of working for your obliques, next time when you come to the top, open to a slight diagonal. So your foot goes to about 5 o'clock, arm to about 11 o'clock, back into the centre, down to the floor, and reset. So same move, lengthen, lift, open, slight diagonal, not too big, and then back down to the floor, and reset. So as we move the arm and the leg, the body wants to sway. That's where it starts to make our obliques work to keep that space held between the ribs and the hips at the sides. Now, if you're not quite feeling it in your core as much as you think you should be, just take your body weight a little further forward, like you're poking your head a little further forward of your hands. When you extend the leg, try and keep the toes pointing down towards the ground. And as the leg opens, you aim to keep your knee and your toes still pointing to the floor. Shoulder blades still drawing back into the rib cage. And we've got 3 left in total. Lengthening, pressing through the heel of the supporting hand. If you need to rest, sit back at any time. 1 left on each side. Try not to let the head drop below the shoulders. Just a little lift of that belly button before you lift. And then down to the floor. Knees into hips, hands on the shoulders. Just tuck the bottom into a cat stretch, let the chin tuck in. Then lower the belly, let the chest come forward into a cow stretch. Once more each way. So into your cat, belly button pulls to the spine. And then into your cow, let your belly sink and lift your eye gaze. And then settling in the centre. We're going to bring our feet forward when you're ready. So coming into a seated position. Partial roll downs to begin with, which may progress into full roll downs and roll back ups. So the first thing you want to be aware is your feet. If they're too close here, they really close up the hips. So take the feet forward and just rest on the heels, so you're not trying to put the feet flat onto the floor. Hands can rest on the knees and then lengthen up through the spine. So I want the crown of the head to keep drawing up towards the ceiling like we did with our pelvic tilts at the beginning. And just come back into your pelvic tilt again, just like you're trying to point your hip bones up to your ribs, and then back down towards the floor. So again, try and point the hip bones up, and then back down towards the floor. It'll feel and look like you're barely moving. But again, it's that concentrated movement through the lower back. And as you point your hip bones up towards your ribs, we should feel a stretch in the lower back, just below our rib cage. If you let the upper back move, you're not going to feel the stretch down here. So think about, again, keeping the length and lift through the upper body and just feeling the movement in that lower back. Next time we're going to start to roll a little further back, but we always need to initiate with the tuck of your tailbone. So point the hip bones up to the ceiling. Start to roll down, keeping the hands on the knees, let your arms come to the point where they're straight and your ribs are down. Then come forward, restack, and pull back up through the crown of the head. Now the alignment of the neck doesn't change. So you get your tuck at the bottom, the arms are almost straightened, you come to about here for your C shape, and then come forward and pull up through the crown of the head. It's tempting to drop the head. Imagine you've got a book balance on your head as you roll back. Ribs are down towards the hips, so you squash your square and then roll back up through the spine. Staying with the first part or that second part, or this time as you roll down, arms can come just off the knees, hands reaching forward as you roll down roughly to your shoulder blades. Then ribs slide to hips, roll forward and a little lift of the arms here for extension of the spine. Tailbone first, ribs draw down, arms start to lower, just to shoulder level, and just come to your shoulder blades, keeping the chin tucked in. So again, you can see how the crown of the head stays level with the ceiling the whole time. So breathing through the nose, ribs towards hips, arms in line with the shoulders. Now push the fingertips forward. That's where you'll feel the upper abdominals start to pull the ribs towards the hips as you rise, and then lengthen at the top. Slow breath. Trying to feel like you're bringing each vertebrae down one at a time. And as you rise, don't rush. Pull the ribs to the hips. Each vertebrae starts to peel off the ground, one and the next, and then fully extending the arms. One last one. Feel the tailbone tucked as you roll back. And it's about control rather than speed. And that's where we get the abdominals working harder, controlling the movement rather than momentum. Now we're going to come all the way down. So again, whichever way you feel is best, you might be able to comfortably roll all the way down, or you might want to use the hands to help you ease down. Bringing the feet in, so the feet are hip distance apart, and we're going to come to single toe taps. So palms up to ceiling. Settle the shoulders away from the ears and bring both knees above the hips. Again, point your hip bones back towards the head and feel how the lower back softly imprints the ground. Your focus is holding the imprint as you just lower one foot about halfway and then bring the knee back above the hip. Now we're going to breathe in, keeping the imprint of the back, and then breathe out to come back to centre. Now it's tempting to try and just reach the floor. That's not the focus, because the back will naturally want to lift. So it's trying to find your hip bones are pointed up to the head and finding that point where you feel your toe muscle holding the imprint rather than letting the foot go further and the lower back lift off the ground. And that's where we create more connection in the abdominals, stabilising and holding the imprint. And just make sure the chin is slightly nodded in. Breathe in, just lower halfway. Breathe out, pull the knee back. Now again, you might notice the head wants to tilt back as you lower the leg. So keeping the length into the back of the neck. Breathing into ease. Breathe out with the lift. Set your imprint just before you go. And again, just moving to the point where you're holding the imprint. So there's no change of position through the spine. There's no distance increasing between the front of the ribs and the hips. So your tummy muscles are in shortened, engaged state the whole way through. 2 on each side. Again, maybe hold for a second, feel the tummy muscles holding, and then pull back. Little breath in, feel the hold, and then the out breath to pull back. 1 more each side. In through the nose, out through the mouth, slow breath in, and a strong breath out. Placing both feet down, nice and close to the bottom. We're going to release the hips. Turn your palms up to the ceiling and reach your hands almost down towards your ankles. So the shoulder blades pull into the back of the ribs, and just make sure the front of the ribs don't flare here. So press the back of the ribs gently down. So with both feet down, we're back in neutral spine, knees in line with hips, pelvic tilt, roll to the first rib, and then roll all the way up the spine to the top of your hip bridge. Now keeping your chin tucked in, start from the upper back, coming down through your rib cage, then through the lower back from imprint, and then into neutral. So physically feel the hip bones point to the head first. Then again, trying to move through each individual vertebrae. At the top, we want to just be neutral, so we don't want to overextend the hips or the ribs. Just coming back to our neutral spine at the top, and then again, trying to find that control. And the more we control the movement of each vertebrae, the more we naturally work in our core and create more strength for the spine, more stretch through the spine. So nod the chin in, and as you roll down, try and feel the vertebrae one and the next. Feel the imprint, so the hips here are pointing to the head, so you go through imprint and then back to neutral. Breathing out through the mouth. Both shoulders pressed evenly into the floor, because that's part of your base, your balance. And again, movement of each individual vertebrae, keeping the chin tucked in. Now we add in the arms. So the hands here give you a little bit of balance. We're going to take the hands away. Arms in line with your mid-chest. Draw the shoulders away from the ears and press both shoulders firmly onto the ground. Start to rise in with your hip bridge. Breathe in. Use the out breath as you start to rise. Pressing down through the backs of both shoulders. Breathe in. Reach your right arm back, keeping the ribs in place. And then breathe out to lift the arm. Left arm reaches back, keeping the weight even through both heels. And then with the chin tucked in, roll back down through each vertebrae. So the out breath when you're ready to rise. Breathing out to the top of your hip bridge. Keeping the shoulder away from the ear as you reach back. So this brings us back to that single arm float at the beginning. Try not to let the shoulder itself move towards the ear. So we're really focusing on the connection in the mid-back and the upper back. So again, as you feel the shoulder blades pressed into the floor, when you take the arm back, try and keep it straight and try and keep the shoulders pressed into the ground. It won't go all the way back to the floor if you're keeping your arms straight and your shoulder anchored. So what happens, the body tries to help from different places. So be aware that when you do take the arm back, the ribs themselves don't allow that extra movement to come from here, keeping the ribs down. We're going to go with 4 more of those. We're going to keep working slowly to keep this control. Next time when your right arm reaches back, just lift your left heel, squeeze the right buttock, and then come back to the centre. Left arm, right heel, keeping that neutral position. Ribs and hips still stay connected, and both shoulders pressing into the ground. Out through the mouth when you rise. Retract the shoulders, press them into the floor. Breathe in, right arm reaches back, left heel lifts. We're trying not to let the hips sway as we roll from the heel onto the ball of the foot. We're also trying to make sure the knee stays directly in line with the hip. Your last 2. Again, really still focused on the control coming through your core to bring each vertebrae down as individually as you can. Notice as you lift the heels, there's no hip sway. Tilting the hips back, getting stretched into the lower back. And your last one here. Out through the mouth. Breathe in and reach. Straight arm, anchored shoulder. Ribs still down. With or without the heel raise. Chin in. And resting at the bottom. Take the arms wide. Anchor the shoulders. Bring both knees back above the hips. Feet, knees, thighs together. Knee rolls to your right. So again, let's think about the ribs and above. Everything stays set. Shoulders on the floor, back of the ribs down. Breathe in as you come into your knee rolls to the right hand side. And then breathe out to ease back to the centre. Stay on your right hand side. Now as the knees roll to the right, they may want to stagger or separate because you're focused on trying to get the knees as far as you can. Your focus should be on keeping the knees together and the ribs down. And just seeing how far you can comfortably take the legs without your head, your shoulders, your ribs moving or your knees separating. So feel how that rotates through the lower back and it's the pelvis that's turning while the upper body is stabilising. Notice your left hand side ribs. Press the left hand side of your rib cage down to the floor and try and keep them down as the knees roll across. That way we get a little bit more stretch into the waist because the ribs are staying anchored. And then the muscles that attach to the ribs have to lengthen to let the pelvis roll across. And if you want to add on just a little, when you take the legs out to the diagonal, extend both legs, bring them back into the centre and bring the knees back to 90. So again, shoulders and ribs anchored. Breathing in, keep the knees together. Breathe out, extend the legs, keep breathing out to pull back. And again, slow control is what we're looking for. So it gives us more time to be aware of the position of the shoulders, the neck, the ribs staying anchored on the ground, and that control again coming through your core. I seem to be all about control today. And your last two on this side. If it feels too much when you straighten the legs, just keep the knees here at 90 degrees. Squeeze the thighs and reset. One last one. Chin in, neck nice and long. Bend both knees. Bring the knees back to hip distance. Place the feet down close to the bottom back for your hip bridge and just roll up through the hip bridge. Keep the bottom squeezed and the shoulders anchored and push the knees out for 3, 2, 1. Chin in, roll back down through each vertebrae. Now when you push the knees out, keep the hips high, so don't let the hips drop as you push from the outer thighs. So you're pushing the knees to about 5 past, 5 to the hour, and then once you've done your 3, making sure the knees are back in line with the hips as you lower. Before you push the hips, knees out, squeeze the bottom, push through the outer thighs, and just see how far you can comfortably open the knees without the hips dropping down. And again, rolling vertebrae by vertebrae. We're just going to do that once more before we come to the knee rolls on the opposite side. So it just helps to release the hip flexors, which can get a little bit tight when we have our knees up high. Your last one. Chin in, each vertebrae being placed on the ground, imprint, neutral. Feet, knees, thighs together. If you prefer, keep the feet on the floor or bring the knees up to tabletop position. Glue your knees together, don't let them stagger. When you're ready, anchor the shoulders, breathe in, easing over to the left, and then breathing out to the centre. So it's a lot easier to go further with the knees. See how they want to come apart. I can't keep my knees together and aligned there without lifting the ribs. So it's really thinking about what's happening with the ribs first, then almost pushing your right knee over the top of your left knee while still pressing your right shoulder down into the ground. And breathing, of course, breathing in as you roll and then breathing out as you pull back. Now you might find the head also wants to move as you're rolling with the knees. So try and keep the head as still as possible so everything from the ribs and above stays still. Then if you want to, double leg extension. That increases the load in our waist as we extend our legs and make our lever longer. So then our waist muscles have to work a little bit harder to pull the ribs back in line with the hips. And don't rush. Breathe in. Breathe out. Keep breathing out. Breath in as the knees bend slowly. Rolling the knees across, keeping that right knee pushed in line with the left knee. And then breathing out, pulling back from the waist. Couple more here. Stretch into the toes, straight strong legs, and then pull back, knees in line with hips, and then back to 90. Coming into your last one. Back shoulder still pressing to the floor. And then hug both knees in towards your chest. A little nodding with the chin. And then when you're ready, you can push the knees forward, hold on to the knees, tuck in the chin, and allow yourself to roll up. Coming back up into seated position. A little stretch here for the hips, so you can cross the ankles or keep the feet out wide, whichever you prefer. Anchoring the hips, straighten out the arms, and then gently tipping from one side over to the other. Now it's tempting to bend the elbow and try and reach the floor. Try it with your arms straight. Stretch away into your fingertips. Now press your right buttock down to the floor and reach as far as you can with your right arm. Anchor your left hip, then reach with your left arm. Keep pressing down to that left hip as you reach up and over. Try and breathe out as you ease into that stretch. Might allow you just to go a little bit further. Breathing into the centre, and your last one, breathing out and lengthening and releasing. Right, working your way up when you're ready. So whichever way feels best, you might want to just turn back onto the hands and knees into a box position, toes tuck under, and then a little lift of the knees and push your weight back towards your heels. So once you've got the hips lifted, try and encourage your heels towards the ground for a little calf stretch. Tuck your ears in between your arms. You can almost push your chest towards your thighs, just to get a nice deep shoulder stretch. Bend the knees when you're ready. Walk the feet forward or the hands back. Feet land hip distance apart, fingers down by the toes. Tucking the chin to relax the neck and the shoulders. Keeping that chin in as you roll back up again, trying to move through each vertebrae. So we're really focusing, bringing the movement through the spine. Keeping again the chin tucked in as you rise. And then rolling it all the way down the spine, back into your perfect posture at the top. When you're ready from here, reach across to your right hip. Almost pull your right hip forward with your right hand. And then reach to your left hip. Pull again your hip forward slightly. Turn your chest, your shoulders. And again to your right. And then around to your left. And then into the centre. And shrug. Pull your shoulders up. And let them go. And again lift. And release. And well done, ladies and gents. Well worked. Well stretched, well strengthened, and well controlled.